A light mist clung to the shadowy trees as Elaina ventured into the forest beyond the village, her wicker basket in hand. She moved with quiet familiarity along the winding path, scanning the foliage for the herbs and roots she relied on for her healing craft. The morning air was tinged with the earthy scents of moist soil and awakening plants that Elaina had come to associate with her periodic forest foraging trips. Up ahead, she spotted a lush patch of valerian flowers nestled alongside the trail. Kneeling down, she began carefully plucking the delicate white blooms, placing them into her gathering basket. A bird trilled overhead, leaves rustled in the gentle breeze, and Elaina felt at peace alone among the ancient trees. Suddenly, a faint groan pierced the tranquility of the scene, so quiet it was nearly lost amidst the sounds of the forest. Elaina froze, her senses on high alert. When the pained groan came again, she leapt to her feet, basket tumbling forgotten to the ground as she raced toward the source. Bursting through some dense underbrush, Elaina stumbled into a small clearing bathed in shafts of morning sunlight. At the far edge lay a figure crumpled on the grass. Elaina hurried over and knelt beside the body of a woman she did not recognize. Dressed in unusual embroidered garb accented with gleaming jewels, she was unconscious and startlingly pale. Elaina pressed 2 fingers to the woman's neck, detecting a thready pulse. Her practiced eye took in the hastily wrapped bandage at her side, stained with blood seeping from some wound beneath it. Elaina hesitated only a moment before committing to action. She had to get this stranger who so clearly needed urgent care back to the village as quickly as possible. Elaina ran through the trees, emerging gasping for breath at the edge of the village. Spotting Caleb passing by, she called out for his assistance. The lanky boy's eyes went wide when Elaina described finding the mysterious injured woman, but he readily agreed to help. With Caleb's aid, Elaina carefully transported the limp stranger back along the forest path on a makeshift stretcher. At her cabin, they gingerly transferred her to the bed. Caleb lingered anxiously as Elaina removed the blood-soaked bandage to reveal a nasty gash along the woman's ribcage. "Light the fire and boil some water," Elaina instructed Caleb as she focused on cleaning away crusted blood to properly examine the deep laceration. Caleb wordlessly obeyed before slipping out, his youthful features clouded with unease. Just then, Amara bustled through the front door unannounced, her voluminous skirt sweeping aside the hanging dried herbs. "What's all this I hear about a strange outsider?" the elder woman questioned brusquely. She peered down at the still unconscious woman, her brow creased. "She arrived with misfortune on her heels. I can feel it. Mark my words, this is trouble." Elaina looked up from grinding fresh herbs for a healing poultice. "Whoever she is, she needs my help right now, Amara. I cannot turn away someone in such dire condition, mysterious origins or not." Amara fixed Elaina with her piercing gaze before sighing in resignation, her bony shoulders slumping. "I suppose you are right, child. Let me fetch some wild yarrow from that odd apothecary Jasper. It will help with healing." She turned and shuffled out on her cane. Alone again, Elaina carefully applied the herbal poultice to the angry wound before bandaging it with clean linen strips. She studied the face of this enigmatic woman now under her care. Despite her pallor, the angles of her cheekbones and arched brows lent her refined elegance. Her midnight hair fanned over the pillow in glossy waves. What unknown circumstances had brought her staggering wounded through this forest? Elaina wrung excess water from a cloth and gently sponged lingering blood from the delicate features of this ethereal stranger. As the days passed, Elaina tirelessly cared for the unconscious woman, hardly leaving the cabin. The villagers gossiped endlessly about the sudden presence of the outsider in their midst. Only Amara and Caleb came to visit Elaina, who was consumed with changing bandages, preparing tonics, and administering medicine to maintain the woman's fragile hold on life. Elaina ground herbs at her work table, blinking back exhaustion from the long nights spent at her charge's bedside. Her healing skills were extensive, thanks to apprenticeship with her late apothecary father, but this woman's grave condition continued to test Elaina. Still, she persevered with poultices, tinctures, and constant monitoring for any change. One morning, as pale dawn light crept across the bed, Elaina was relieved to find the angry red swelling around the wound finally diminishing. The injured woman's breathing sounded less laboured. Elaina allowed herself a small smile. Her efforts were paying off. But there was still a long road ahead to full recovery, if it was to be had at all. She wrung out a cloth and gently bathed the woman's face, neck and arms, keeping her skin cool and comfortable. On the third night, Elaina was jolted from a light doze by the creak of a floorboard. She lifted her head from beside the bed to see the woman shifting fretfully, then settling back into stillness. Elaina reached out and gently laid her palm on the woman's forehead. Her raging fever had finally broken. Elaina nearly wept with relief. Late the next evening, Elaina was adjusting the woman's pillows when she noticed her eyes fluttering rapidly beneath their lids. She paused, watching closely. Then suddenly, the woman's striking tawny gaze flew open and locked intensely on Elaina hovering above her. "Be still. You are safe here. I am Elaina. I found you injured in the woods," she explained in a hushed tone. The woman's eyes darted wildly around the cabin before returning to Elena's face. "Aria," she rasped weakly. "My name is Aria." Her musical voice was nearly a whisper. Elaina gently squeezed her hand. "Rest now, Aria. You are healing." Aria gave the barest nod before her eyes slid shut, her shallow breaths evening out again in slumber. Over the next few days, Aria drifted in and out of consciousness. Elaina coaxed her to swallow broths and herbal teas between long bouts of fitful rest. The curious villagers caught glimpses of the stranger through the cabin windows, though Elaina only permitted Caleb and Amara to visit briefly. One afternoon, Elaina returned from washing linens to find Aria awake and attempting to push herself up on the bed. No, lie back down," Elaina chided, rushing over to support Aria as she sank weakly back into the pillows. "How long have I been here?" Aria rasped, her eyes shadowed with confusion. "Nearly 2 weeks since I found you injured in the forest," Elaina replied gently. "You've been teetering on the brink, but your strength is returning." Aria nodded slowly, wincing. "I must go. There is danger." She made another effort to rise before groaning in pain. Elaina firmly yet tenderly eased her back down again. "You are in no condition to go anywhere. Please, rest." Aria reluctantly acquiesced, her eyes already sliding shut again. Later, Amara shook her head when Elaina described the episode. "Mark my words, that one is going to bring calamity here. I feel it in these old bones," she muttered as she stumped out the door. That night, Elaina kept watch over Aria, as restless tension seemed to grip the recovering woman. When Aria finally stilled, Elaina bathed her fevered forehead with a cool cloth. "What burdens weigh so heavily on you?" she whispered. Aria's only reply was the ghost of a sigh. Over the next few days, Aria remained mostly asleep, only semi-conscious for brief moments when Elaina coaxed her to take water or medicine. Her wounds were knitting together well, but she was still extremely weak. Elaina took advantage of Aria's long sleeping hours to venture out and replenish her supply of healing herbs. She checked on Amara and picked up medicines from the reclusive apothecary Jasper. Though preoccupied caring for Aria, Elaina made an effort not to fully neglect her other patients in the village. Late one afternoon, when shafts of golden light streamed through the windows, Elaina sat grinding fresh herbs at her work table while Aria slept. The steady, rhythmic motion helped calm her own frayed nerves. She added the powdered ingredients to vials of tinctures and oils with practiced competence, born of long years studying the apothecary arts alongside her father. A soft moan from the bed drew Elena's gaze. Aria was shifting restlessly, her head tossing on the pillow. Elaina was at her side in an instant, taking one slender hand in her own and placing a cool cloth on her forehead. "Shh, it's all right," Elaina soothed. At the sound of her voice, Aria stilled, though her brow remained tensed. Elaina gently smoothed back a lock of raven hair that had fallen across her face. What nightmares or visions were plaguing her so? She longed to understand and ease this woman's suffering. Gradually, Aria's expression relaxed again into sleep. But Elaina maintained her bedside vigil late into the night. keeping watch over her cryptic charge. She was accustomed to watching over the infirm, but this felt different somehow, though the reason eluded her. When at last her own eyes grew heavy, Elaina retreated reluctantly to her pallet by the hearth. She fell into a fitful sleep, her dreams filled with mysteries she could not unravel,